There's a lot to get to, but I think it's important we unpack that exchange between Secretary Hegseth and Congressman Smith. Did we go to war not because of the reality on the ground, but because of ambitions that the Iranians may have had?
Well, you're not going to win a war if you didn't go. If what you're going to do is try to fight people's ambitions. I mean, you got to start at the end and work backwards. Figure out what the end state is, and then allocate the resources necessary to accomplish it. It would appear that that was not accomplished here. Either we wanted to destroy their nuclear capability, or we want to eliminate their desire to have nuclear weapons. We've apparently done the former. It's going to be extremely difficult for anybody to get that stuff out of the ground. We've got eyes on it all the time. If the Iranians decide to unearth that stuff, we can attack them while they're trying to do it. It would take months, if not years, to unearth that stuff. So that part of the mission, one would think, would be accomplished. If what you want to do is eliminate Iranian ambitions to have nuclear weapons, indeed, if what you want to do is eliminate Iranian ambitions to do anything, you got to do a heck of a lot more than we've been doing. And you can't leave yourself in a standoff like we are now, where Iran controls the strait. There's no commerce going through, and they still have the capability to do whatever they want to do. We have to remember that the Iranians don't have the kind of political support. They don't require the kind of political support or constituency that we do. They can continue to do whatever they want to do with no fear that they're going to be out of office anytime soon. So if you really want to do what Hegseth is talking about, then you really need to land lots of ground troops, spend a long time killing the Republican guards, and then seizing control of a country that's got 90 million people. We're not going to do that. So it would appear that Hegseth doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, there's, I think, out of that exchange comes, for me, David, a series of questions that I think you don't have to be a military expert to want answers to, that the American people, you could argue, deserve answers to. How much has this war cost? What have we accomplished? And what has been the impact on the average American family, the U.S. economy? Did we get straight answers from Secretary Hegseth to any of those questions?
The short answer is no. I was disappointed by the general tenor of the whole hearing, sometimes the Republicans and sometimes the Democrats. This is an incredibly serious situation. 50,000 service members are at risk. In terms of the money that was spent, the estimate that was announced by Hegseth was $25 billion. Democrats, including Representative Smith, who I've been texting with since he had that exchange, says that the number that Hegseth is giving doesn't appear to be accurate. That's just munitions that have been spent. But more broadly, as you were saying, we're hearing the Secretary of Defense and some Republicans on the panel say that their goal here is regime change. All the things they're saying, they're going to take away forever Iran's ability to have a nuclear weapon when you have a government that says it's their right to have a nuclear program. And so, I just think the broader question is the strategies this administration has used. They went in saying airstrikes will be enough, it will topple the regime. That hasn't worked. The Iranians have taken control of the Strait of Hormuz. Now we have a blockade, and they're saying the blockade will cause the Iranians to open up the Strait of Hormuz. This is all, and you're the expert, waging war light, waging war in like an easy way. War involves a credible threat of ground troops and of an invasion. So it's a vast expansion of this war. I'll leave it to you basically to talk about this politically, but this administration is talking about this huge effort to change the nature of Iran, topple its government, and end these ambitions forever. That's an enormous task for our service members.
Let me just say that I think that the administration's strategy was, we'll just bomb them, and then a miracle will happen, and there will be a new Iran. But that's clearly not going to happen.
You heard that in Vietnam.
Yeah. We did
indeed.
We're going
to bomb the Vietnamese and win that war.
And they're going to give up.
So there's another thing that Secretary Hegseth didn't back down on. He said there will be no quarter, no mercy for our enemies. No quarter is an order, correct? There is a no quarter order. Is it even legal?
Well, on the battlefield, what you try to do is to close with the enemy to kill or capture them. Once people are under your control, you have a responsibility to take care of them. We've tried to keep doing that. And when you talk to people at the bottom of the food chain, that's what you tell them they have to do. So at the lowest level of sophistication on the battlefield, at the point of decision, you have to give quarter when they give up. But that's not what we're talking about here. The administration is talking about eliminating Iran completely, but it's not going to be able to accomplish that. We don't have we don't have the willpower to do that. We don't have the political willpower to do that. And I got to tell you, if it costs $50 billion just to this point, we don't have the money to do it either.
Kevin, do we have Kevin there on Capitol Hill? Kevin, I'm wondering what else you want to take note of. What were some of the other key moments?
Right. So, I mean, look, this was something that Democrats have been really getting ready for. I was told by one lawmaker yesterday that they actually met, the Democrats on this panel, last week to kind of go over strategy. And while they weren't all assigned specific things they wanted to talk about, they certainly had some themes. And we've seen some of that play out, particularly when it comes to just the general idea of accountability, trying to get some sense of what the heck the plan is for the exit strategy when it comes to Iran. But also you've seen, and I've noticed, a lot of rehashing of kind of the same line of questioning, which is, how much is this going to cost the American taxpayer? What is the impact, the trickle-down effects on the average American's wallet? That is obviously kind of fitting in with the larger affordability line of questioning and really the campaign message that Democrats have been pursuing ahead of the midterms this fall. We also had some really direct exchanges with Hegseth about whether or not we are actually, by definition, winning this conflict. Here is that exchange with Seth Moulton.
Are you afraid to take ownership of this? Do you think it was a good idea or not?
As I've consulted the president, do I think it's a good idea to confront a nuclear bomb
to start this
in the
war?
hands of the? Imagine what the world would look like right now if Iran had a nuclear weapon.
Do you think we're winning?
Militarily on the battlefield, it's been an astounding military success.
No, but are we winning the war?
Absolutely.
Okay, so do you call Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz winning?
Well, I would say the blockade that we hold that doesn't allow anything to come in or out of Iranian ports.
Okay, so we've blockaded their blockade. So they blockaded us, and then we blockaded their blockade. That's like saying, tag, you're it.
Two other kind of key notes here. One, we have seen some of the Democrats on this panel essentially not ask questions, but go for the full extent of their 5 minutes, which I think is some of what David was referring to. Basically, complaining, frustratedly, angrily, talking at Hegseth. The other note here, of course, is that I'll throw it back to you.
Okay, thanks so much for that. Basil, I want to play something else. This is from a Democratic Congressman, Ro Khanna, because I think it does go back to the whole question. Poll after poll after poll shows the American people don't want this war. They shall also show they have had it with the financial impacts of this war. And that was basically his line of questioning, the rising costs associated with the war here domestically. Take a listen. This is Ro Khanna questioning Pete Hegseth.
Do you know how much it will cost Americans in terms of their increased cost in gas and food over the next year because of the Iran war?
I would simply ask you what the cost is of an Iranian nuclear bomb.
I'm going to give you that opportunity.
I would simply ask you what you're playing gotcha questions about domestic.
No, it's not. You don't even know what the average American is paying. You don't know what we paid in terms of the missiles that hit the Iranian school. You don't know what we're paying in terms of gas. You don't know what we're paying in terms of food. Your 25 billion number is totally off. It's the incompetence. You said you wouldn't get us into bad wars. You said you would bring down the prices. You know what I'm sad for? I'm sad for all the people who voted for Trump. I'm sad for them because you betrayed them. You betrayed a lot of that MAGA base.
There was a bit of a chuckle there. I don't know that the rising number of Republicans who have fallen away in their support for Trump, the larger number of independents who have ended their support for the president, think that what it costs them every day to fill up their gas, to go to the store, is funny. Having said that, is there an argument that they can make about this? What's the argument that they can make that they're not making?
The Republicans?
Yeah.
I don't think they credibly can make an argument that this is a right and just war that we've entered into, especially when the president, for the entire course of his campaign, said that this is something we're not doing. But we are so far afoul of everything that the president campaigned on. I don't really see how Republicans and the Secretary of Hegseth, as he's trying to make the case, I don't see where he can convince the American people writ large that we're doing the right thing. There are Republicans that are going to be in lockstep, and you heard members of Congress.
And who will think that those questions were gotcha questions.
Exactly right. But as you indicated, a large number of independent voters, it's increased from last year. In addition to the fact that there's already a substantial increase in the amount of money given to ICE. So if we zoom out a little bit, a question that Democrats should be, hopefully will be asking is, what is all this money for? It's for this president to wage war, just like the picture in the image that he retweeted. It's for the president to wage war at home and abroad, something that the American people did not sign up to do. So if going back to Congressman Ro Khanna's question, we need to start, I think, just as Americans, but certainly as Democrats, now accounting for the fact that little by little, this Congress is giving up their authority to this administration to take as much money away from Americans as possible to fight a war that, going to what my colleagues were saying here in terms of the current standoff, that has no foreseeable end.